And we are live. What is up, everybody? Aaron the Pup here because we are back to the Apex. Sorry, I had the dog title from which even though the Contender Series in the Apex, these Apex shows feel a little different. But headlined by a pretty good, it's grown on me main event and Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns. And with me is the best panel in the MMA breakdown game. First up, off of another solid Contender Series. I believe you went 4-1 this time instead of old 5-0. But Lucky, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. And I have to make an unfortunate correction that it was 3-2. The
Oh, my
first
mistake.
less than 4 week of the year. But yeah, it was still, still profitable. I got in on Jordan Santos at plus 350. So can't really complain too much. Contender Series, there's always going to be those weeks. Last week, or not, well, 2 weeks ago, UFC was a
Yep.
really good card with Bahayo, Myron Santos, the over in the Borshev fight, Ricci by decision. I did miss on the Offley and Santos fight over, but very good UFC last time, and hopefully we get another one this weekend. I think it's a very good main event, like you alluded to. So yeah, let's get into her.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And welcome to Grift Picks. The Patreon is coming next week for the pay-per-view. So don't worry. Just stick around here whenever the pay-per-view is 2 weeks. 2 cents. How you doing down there?
Aaron, I'm doing well. As always, thank you for having me. What's up, Lucky? Great to be on panel with you as always, man. Peace to the chat. Make sure y'all smash the like button for Aaron whenever you get up in here. I'm feeling pretty good, man. I got smoked again in Contender Series, dude. I'm living up to my name as the Dana White Contender Series cooler this season, but yeah, not doing too bad in UFC. Actually, the last event was my first losing event in like a month. So going to start the new winning streak with this card. Very excited to be here and talk about it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of competitive fights on this card. It is definitely a card where it feels like the dog is a little more live in a lot more fights than usual. We'll see how many of those dogs I end up getting to, but we're going to start with a fight that's been booked. It's been rebooked. Zigomatis Ramaska against Nathan Fletcher. And this is at featherweight. Right away, right off the bat, Cage Warriors. I don't think the stock on Cage Warriors has been much lower than it is right now. Again, Contender Series yesterday, Will Curry kind of letting a lot of us know who he already was, which is kind of somebody who doesn't exactly show up in the biggest of situations, doesn't have that well-rounded MMA game. Overall, an issue with a lot of Cage Warriors, and I feel like Curry is going to really work against Fletcher in this spot as well. There's a lot of kind of issues with Fletcher for me. Just overall, he's pretty one-dimensional with regards to the grappling, and I don't know if the grappling fully transfers over to this kind of level of competition. Zigomatis, definitely the one who seemed to improve more on the show and just overall. I think he's more well-rounded. And I just don't like Fletcher pulling out of this fight for an injury after, and then them rebooking it. Had an injury on the show as well, I believe a leg break of some kind. So just like a lot of stuff that's keeping me off of the Nathan Fletcher and overall Cage Warriors disciple bandwagon here. So Zigomatis is the side for me. And yeah, I think that he gets this done by decision, but I just think he's kind of got Nathan Fletcher beat in most areas aside from maybe submission grappling, which I have trouble seeing how Nathan gets to it. So I got one of the public dogs of the week in Zigomatis. Lucky.
Yeah, at this point, there's no chance that, I bet on this fight anyway. I think it's a fun fight. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely not like a who cares type of fight. It should be a great way to open the show, and I'm excited to watch it. But there's just been too many health issues on both sides for me to be involved here. Like, both of these guys got injured on the show. Now, Fletcher's pulling out last or 2 weeks ago. Now he's back here. Like, I don't really know what to think. I kind of already broke it down last time. Nothing really has changed for me. I think Fletcher is a little more skilled, but I will say if I had only watched The Ultimate Fighter and made a judgment based on that alone, I might say Ramaska here, just based off those performances on the show, I thought he gave a better account of himself. He's really big at the weight class. He's dynamic. Fletcher, I think, is at the wrong weight class. I think he needs to be at 135, but we'll see how he looks here. I do think he's just technically a little more skilled. You're getting a discount this time. Obviously, there's the injury concern. I'm not going to bet on this one. I'm going to pick Fletcher, though.
Fair enough. Fair enough. 2 cents.
I'll make this one pretty quick because I'm not betting on it either. But yeah, I'm honestly, man, before this got rebooked, I was on Ramaska. And I didn't think too hard about it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? He did, like, to Lucky's points, like he did like look better on the show, and to your point too. Like, but I don't know, man. The more I think about it, I think Fletcher's going to get it done. I don't know if he subs him, but I think he does get the grappling going. Get some of those like Euro trash style, like body lock trip takedowns and shit against the cage. But yeah, give me Fletcher here by decision.
Totally fair. Totally fair. Coming in this one, I was kind of expecting a little more Ramaskas. I was originally on Fletcher, and just as the fight's gotten booked and rebooked, it just feels like more and more of it is leaning towards Ramaska, but that might be, kind of just a little bit of cloud thinking from kind of the low cage warriors stock right now. So it would be kind of interesting. I think that's what the line's reflecting too.
Ziggy's good on the feet, man. Like Fletcher's got pretty good boxing, but I think Fletcher might end up being a dusty bitch here if it gets hairy for him with a stand.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting pretty early. So plus 115 to Ramaska as of now. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a pick 'em by fight night. Moving on to the next fight here, minus 145 on the over 1.5. I think that's pretty tempting. I don't think this one's ending early, to be honest with you. So, but we shall see. Next fight, very weird fight. Don't really know why it's booked, but here we are. We're in a spot where we're highly trusting Andre Petroski. What could go wrong? Taking on Dylan Budka, mindless Hulk. A guy who I've kind of fall off of a high expectation I had for him. I like Dylan Budka all the way through his Fay run. Even when he lost to like Doug Goldfeather or whatever that guy's name is back in the day, in like his second fight, like David Gladfelder or whatever the guy's name is, didn't really, worry me. The Bukoyev fight, split decision, it was close, but just I've been less than impressed by the two showings from Dylan Budka in both the Contender Series, which was on short notice, and then in his first fight against Almeida. He just grapples and only grapples, doesn't mix in any kind of elements of MMA overall well here. And I just think with Petroski, this is a spot where you can trust him, but it's kind of scary to trust Petroski, especially with how he lost a couple fights ago. Of course, Malkoun came back against Fremdo and did look to rebound rather well. I just think Petroski has Dylan Budka covered in every area and probably makes Petroski look good on the feet here, because I just don't see why Petroski mixes up with the grappling here with Budka, which I feel is his only real spot. So Petroski minus 270, what could go wrong? Possible Zhongli candidate, 2 cents. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's Petroski for me too. Parlayed Petroski up with the pub boys yesterday. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I get the like wanting to fade Andre Petroski. I just don't think Budka's the guy, man. Like the guys that have fucked him up, like he is not Michelle Pereira. And man, honestly, like I got to give Jacob Malkoun, like, I don't know, man. He fucking knocked himself out running into his hip. So like, but Malkoun is a decent fighter too. Like, I don't even think Budka's on that level, honestly. But yeah, he's a young dude. He could, like, I'll say this. Budka, like, might have a puncher's chance, but that's it. Like, I think Petroski is like a better version of Budka, basically. And he
is pretty ever knocked out.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and Petroski's like, heavy-handed on the feet. So, he might not be the most technical, but he will chuck them fucking bricks. So yeah, give me Petroski here. I'm not quite sure how it finishes, but I think there's a chance that he gets a finish.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Lucky, what's your thoughts on this one? And yeah, David Gladfelter. Sorry, David Gladfelter in his pro debut for Butka. Sorry. Go ahead.
Here we go again with Petroski. See what I said last time? Not very good, but he's 6-2 in the UFC, and I think he's fought one of the absolute weakest strengths of schedule in UFC history. To be honest, it's actually insane. Who manages this guy? Because he needs to be getting like 75% of the fight purses, and he pulled it off again, boys. Petroski's manager pulls up his sleeves and he scrapes the bottom of the barrel for one more matchup here. And just when you think there's nothing left to scrape, he scrapes up another one. And he has to, because if Petroski was fighting people with a pulse on a regular basis, this guy would be out of a job because Petroski wouldn't win any more fights, as we saw the only two times he's ever taken a step up. And I really don't want to have to speak ill of Dylan Budka because he was a guy that I liked on the regionals. And, sometimes you get those guys who you like on the come up, but once they get to the UFC, you're forced to admit the, uncomfortable and unfortunate truth that they just aren't that good at the top level. And that's kind of the truth there for me. Budka is strong. He's got some wrestling. And that's pretty much it, in my opinion. He can't really strike. He doesn't really have a jiu-jitsu game. I would pick a lot of guys against Petroski, honest to God. I am the ultimate non-believer in him, but he just keeps getting these low-level fights, man. Like, he cannot keep getting away with this. But, yeah, I think he has Dylan Budka covered here. Give me Petroski.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Sometimes the Zhongli is picking the fighter. Sometimes it's fading the fighter. We're fading Budka. Minus 278. Petroski's up to. I'm surprised it's not higher, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think that, I might play Petroski by knockout here as well. I'm kind of interested to see how Budka responds to that first KO loss and everything. I get
Dude,
it.
and like Petroski, if he thinks for a second that he's the better grappler, he usually makes a meal out of the dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like if it could be like a dick swing contest with like who's the better, like the stronger wrestler, grappler, you know what? And I think he could win that kind of fight too.
Yeah. So
definitely could.
Yeah, I don't see where Dylan Budka wins this fight. And I was probably the biggest Dylan Budka believer coming into the UFC of anybody. Like, I defended Dana signing him off of that guy who on cocaine that he beat, Chad, whatever, cocaine Chad. And yeah, he's not UFC. He's not that guy. So on to some real UFC fighters here. Flyweights, LFA graduates here. Jacqueline Amarim, Vanessa Demopoulos. Vanessa Demopoulos wins split decisions that she doesn't win for a living. She really does. And she's now in a fight against a person in Jacqueline Amarim who, after the first 5 minutes, falls off of a cliff. Just to me, I got a weird feeling, man. I bet Vanessa Demopoulos last week or a week or two ago at plus 310. I believe some money's coming on her at this point. Vanessa's going to find a way to win a split decision. She didn't win again. Just because she's going to be the one who's not keeled over, like falling over, running out of gas by the end of the third round. She's got to, basically I'm picking her because they have similar grappling and she's got a very large cardio advantage. And I think that she can look like the better fighter the last 10 minutes and win a split decision. Plus 310 was where I got it at. I know it's at like plus 250 now. This is just a spot where I feel like these fighters match up pretty similarly to each other. So you're probably going to see a low level striking affair, and whoever's in better shape wins. And I'm going to take the stripper. Lucky.
Yeah, Amarim came into the UFC after a pretty superb LFA run. She dropped her debut to Sam Hughes and then won 2 straight, both by finish. Amarim was a great finisher on the regionals. She's seemed to have carried that ability into the UFC, which is always nice to see. I think she's a good fighter. Demopoulos just keeps getting her hand raised one way or another. I'm not the biggest believer in her. She's better than some would have you believe, but I'm not sure she's really like a major player at the UFC level. I think Amarim is like one more win away from being looked at as a legitimate UFC athlete with some staying power. And I think she can do that against Vanessa on Saturday. I don't really have too much to say about this one. I'm going to pick Amarim.
All right. Noah, big on the Amarim side here. Watch out. 2 cents. Where are you at?
So just like a quick breakdown, I guess. Like, yeah, she keeps getting her hand raised, but like, and Kaneko Murata, that's a good win. She was pretty highly touted. Ducote, like, I thought she fucking lost that fight, and I think Ducote's kind of like, she's a little bit of a jabroni. Jinyu Frey is definitely a fucking jobber. Maria Oliveira, yeah, like my point is, I guess, like, what's her best win? Like not dying against Silvana Juarez Gomez. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, man. I think Amarim, I think one, two things is going to happen. I don't think there's anything wrong with betting Vanessa because one way or another, like y'all said, she finds a way to get it fucking done. And at that number, like she has come through as a dog several fucking times. But I think one of two things happens. And Aaron, I think there's definitely a chance that Amarim could gas and Vanessa could win the fight. But I think if Vanessa wins, Amarim gasses and Demo just knocks her the fuck out because she swings really hard on the feet and like Amarim isn't the best striker. But I think the other thing that could happen is that Demo makes a mistake in the grappling. She does go to that a lot, and I think Amarim on top, I think she could fuck Demo up. So I'm going to say that Amarim gets a submission or maybe like a GMP TKO, but I definitely think Demo is live, and there's no way I'd touch Jackie at this line.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I just think this line is way out of line. So they got me on it. She's now part of the Zhang Li down to plus 245. So, maybe that cash out offer gets tempting enough that I can just take that and just watch this fight, which is how I'd rather do it anyways. But for now, I'll take Demopolis by split decision. All right. Moving on to the next fight. 145. I think I'm very, very excited to see Gabriel Santos back. I really do like him as a fighter. I feel his last two fights, obviously the Lerone Murphy fight, people were very, very high on him after that. Then he came out and got knocked out by Onama as a decent size favorite in that one. And I believe 2 cents was on Onama in that one, if I'm correct.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I definitely was very, very on Santos there. And I like Santos' overall game. Yinza, he's fine. I'm glad he made it back to the UFC. He's definitely a grappler, very opportunistic, a lot of submissions on his resume as well. But I feel like that's a spot where Gabriel Santos is a very, very strong, like stronger than he gets credit for with regards to his jiu-jitsu especially. And I just don't see Yinza being able to being able to kind of challenge him with regards to the grappling. I do think on the feet, this is a wide range, and I see Santos getting a KO finish. So I agree with Noah. I think Santos is one of the best, most reliable favorites of the week. He's in the Zhang Li. I got him by knockout in round 2. 2 cents.
Let's fucking go. Yeah, I parlayed Santos today myself with the fucking fallout of a fight, I'm sure we like to avoid talking about, but we all know which one it is. But yeah, I had to switch it up and parlay Santos. I think, I like you watch tape on Yazi and like he looks good, but it's against these like nobody Asian circuit fighters, like not even
road fighters,
dude, not even fucking road to UFC level. And
WLF.
Yeah, so like, man, and dude, I've been pretty good at fading Santos. I got definitely made money betting Onama as a dog there, and I don't think I bet. I might have parlayed Murphy. I can't remember, but I think he gets it done here, man. I think he's quite a bit better everywhere, and yeah, I'm kind of with you, man. I think he might knock this dude out. Because Yazi likes to kind of throw on the feet. I don't think he has a chance to beat Santos in the grappling. Like, I think Santos is a way better grappler. Like, and people, some people will be down on Santos for getting chinned by Onama, but dude, David Onama fucking cracks. And I don't think Yazi is that fucking dude. I think Santos is going to fucking crush him.
All right, Lucky.
Yeah, Santos had a really good regional run, picking up wins over Alves Brenner, Marcio Barbosa, beating Jose Delano for the LFA title at 145. Got a really tough UFC debut at 10-0 against Lerone Murphy, lost a split, and made a really good account of himself and kind of saw the classic phenomenon of someone getting overrated after looking good in a loss. And He was a big favorite to Anama in his next fight, got knocked out in the second round. He's a big favorite to Yijia here. And Yijia is a guy who came through on road to the UFC, faced Jung Young Lee in the final and lost a split. Some people thought he should have won that. Pretty sure I bet on Lee there. I remember feeling kind of relieved to hear that decision.
Yep.
Yijia didn't get given another UFC fight after that, went right back to RTU and won 3 in a row there. Now he's a sizable underdog to Gabriel Santos, who's 0-2 in the organization. For me, at this price, I feel like probably a dog or pass fight for me here.
All right, fair enough. At this point, the under 2.5 at plus 125, which I think is kind of interesting for a fight where Santos is so heavily favored, because I do see the finishing upside on his side. So I'm not big over, I'm not a big time prop guy, but there's the over in the first fight of the night and the over 1.5 and under 2.5 in that fight. A little bit interested in those as well, because I do think Santos gets to win and finishes them. So we shall see. All right, we keep moving along. Next fight at 125, second prelim from the top here. Andrade Lima back against Felipe dos Santos. Felipe Daytona coming off of a very close split decision against Alto Moreno. Alto Moreno was taking him down quite a bit in that fight. And that's definitely a concern, I think, for Felipe dos Santos. As things move forward here against Andrade Lima, probably not as much of an issue. More my issue with dos Santos is he kind of doesn't mix it up enough for me. He's pretty one-dimensional boxer for the most part to the pretty much a headhunter as well. He seems to be kind of getting better from a physical perspective because of the age here. Still only 23 years old, but at the same point, Lima only 25. So both these guys getting better, improving a lot from fight to fight. I do think that dos Santos is the more well-rounded of the two, but I don't see that really playing a factor in this one. And I just think that originally I wanted to be on the dos Santos side. I really did. I wanted to find the dog side in this, but I do think that Lima just is too much for him on the feed. And I do think that he ends up taking this one. I think it goes to a decision. I'll take Lima, but not super confident in this one. I originally did start on the dog and slightly on the favorite, 180 favorite in Lima at this point. So, Lucky, what's your thoughts?
Good fight. Lima 9-0, Santos 8-1. Lima's 2-0 in the organization. He's 25. Just Santos is 1-1 in the UFC and had to debut against Manel Kape and made it a real honest fight. And he has wins over pretty good prospects on the regional scene, man. Hugo Paiva and Marcos Degli. Those guys are both beasts. Those wins are aging really well. I think Degli was like 3-3 at the time that they fought. So if you just look at it on Tapology, you're like, oh, some random 500 guy. I think he's like 11-3 now, and he's looking like really good. So that was a really good win. And Hugo Paiva obviously has been winning a ton of fights as well. Those are 2 wins that I'm pretty impressed by. I think, the line's a little weird to me just because, I don't know, I personally feel like it's a close fight with 2 pretty good prospects. I definitely don't look at this matchup and say, one of these guys should be close to minus 200. I think it's, closer to a 50-50 than what it's currently lined at. So, like you said, I think they're going to strike here. I don't feel like Lima is like significantly better than dos Santos. So once again, I think it's a dog or pass fight at this price.
Yeah, no, a lot of money continues coming on Lima. I'm pretty surprised. 2 cents.
Yeah, dude, I've been staring at that Felipe dos Santos money line all fucking week. I haven't pulled the trigger. I do have an underdog bet or a couple underdog bets on this card, but dos Santos is not one of them. But I'm actually going to pick Felipe dos Santos. I'm not super duper convicted about it because I do think Lima is a pretty fucking good striker. And I'm actually just excited to watch this fight. So I just kind of want to just watch it and not be super invested in it and be worrying about, is my dude winning? Because I think it's gonna be a fucking good one. I think they are gonna bang it out on the feet. And yeah, man, I like the reach advantage for Felipe dos Santos. I like that he looked good against Manel Kape in a loss and then didn't get smoked in his next fight. He beat Altamirano, whether you think he won or lost that fight. But yeah, I like Dos Santos here, but not super duper like crazy about it. Like I haven't betted or anything, just a pick.
Yeah, minus 250 on the over 2.5 as well. They're expecting a very close fight between two young Brazilians. So yeah, I'm gonna sit this one out as well and watch it. Minus 180 is insane. Definitely the plus 150 on Dos Santos. I understand anybody's taking a stab at that.
And like, I think there's a little bit of like meme factor with Lima. There's a little bit of like social media push with him with the whole biting thing, and then he got it tatted, but then he like missed weight. He's just kind of a weird dude, and I think I do get a little bit of fraud vibes. I don't necessarily think he's a like crazy fraud or anything, but I think he could get like checked, so to speak, potentially here soon.
Yep. What up, Big Show?
Well, what up?
Well, all right, moving on. But yeah, very good fight. Honestly, we're through to the featured prelim, which is not a good fight, but the rest of the prelims are pretty decent for a 2024 UFC card. I'll give them that. Then we have Isaac Delgarian, who's going to come in and throw Brendan Morat around like the Hulk in whatever movie that happens in. And then, I mean, he's dead already. Delgarian is going to probably just arm triangle him, I hope. I hope he doesn't beat him to a pulp. I hope he just arm triangles him in round one from like full mount. But like, I'd love to take a shot at Brendan here. But I guess I'll take Delgarian by first round choke so that he doesn't have to prove that he has any improvement to his cardio. 2 cents.
What you said, Delgarian first round sub.
Yeah, well, the last time a fighter was minus 2,000, it did turn out well for Shannon Clark. So, yeah. Lucky, do you have a hot take on Brendan Morat?
I do not have a hot take on Brendan Morat. Delgarian should have him covered on all bases here. I mean, it would be cool to see Morat shock the world for the great state of New Hampshire here, but Delgarian is a minus 4-digit number because he should win. So let's not waste our time on this one.
Yeah. The over 1.5 at plus 260. That would be just a horrible sweat of a over 1.5. At that point, you should just bet Brendan Morat, because if this fight enters round 2 or round 3, maybe I'm live betting Brendan here. So either way, we're gonna move on to an actual fight. I don't see this on Tapology often, but huge underdog, no kidding. Thank you. Glad that we figured out what a plus 1050 is. All right, move back on to the main card. So everybody, make your stakes very quickly while Delgarian throws around Brendan Morat. Hongju has made his return to the UFC. We've all waited. The gift that's been promised from China. He just needed a little more time to kind of marinate and become what he was promised before. Now this is the real Hongju. Take on Chris Padilla. We are a Fernando Padilla channel, but are we also a Chris Padilla channel? I'm going to say sure, why not? I like Taco a lot. He is a really enjoyable fighter. Came in against Yontov, got the first round submission win with Hongzu. He does have that submission a few fights ago. He had that, or that was last fight, I'm sorry, against Shin Horiguchi, where I believe it was no hooks, just kind of lifted him up with the rear naked choke and got it. Very high level there. Hongju, I would never trust being this large of a favorite in his return to the UFC. I think there definitely some questions on kind of how he holds up as a fight goes on. I think he wears down. I think Chris Padilla is the type of fighter that gets stronger as the fight goes on. I do think that Hongju, is physically the better guy. He's got the longer reach. He's maybe even more talented. And we know with Dricus Duplessis in 2024 that talent and technique does not matter. So I just think that Chris Padilla ends up breaking down Hongju here, getting him tired and catching him in a rear naked choke. So Padilla at sub plus 550, if you can get like Mick, that's a great number. I like Padilla to find the sub somewhere in this fight, and I think it happens later. So I'll say Padilla round 2 submission. Lucky.
Yeah, Rong Zhu is back in the UFC after going through road to the UFC, went 1-2 in his actual UFC stint. Missed weight pretty badly twice and was let go after the 3 fights. 30 pro fights at 24, if he is really 24, is pretty impressive. He's a big-time finisher. He's very durable. He's never been knocked out. He has been submitted and lost via points. Padilla has some good submissions. He won his UFC debut via sub against James Yontop. Lots of finishes on his record as well. I'm just not really completely sold on this guy. I've seen him lose to average fighters before. He doesn't really have one particular loss that like you point to and say, oh, this guy's, completely horrible. It's a lot of experienced guys that he's fought for the most part. He doesn't have a uniquely eye-popping win either. Rong Zhu is young with a lot of experience. He paid his penance on the road to the UFC, got back here. I think he's hungry. I think Padilla is going to be hungry as well to get, his second UFC appearance under his belt. Zhu is not the easiest guy to take down, and he puts on a high pace on the feet. He hits hard. I'm not really a believer in Padilla yet, so I'm going to side with Rong Zhu, but I'm not going to be involved in any capacity here.
I feel like me and Lucky have disagreed more on this card than any card all year, so that's great news for one of us, or neither one of us. 2 cents.
So I was with Lucky on the dog on Felipe dos Santos or whatever with the pick there, but I actually bet Chris Padilla. He proved me wrong in the last fight, and it's not a situation where like it's a young 24-year-old going up against a guy that's like this seasoned old vet or whatever. Like Chris Padilla is only 28, and he's had a lot of experience too, and now he's got closer to a full camp or whatever. So yeah, I like I bet Chris Padilla at plus 210. I don't know what it is now, but yeah, I get what Lucky's saying. Like Rong Zhu, he has the reach advantage. He's probably the better striker. But I think Chris Padilla is a little bit more dogged, and I think there is a chance that he could break him late and sub him. So yeah, Chris Padilla for the boys. It worries me a little bit. Like everyone seems to be on Chris Padilla. But yeah, let's fucking go. Let's get a fucking taco.
Rong Zhu looks much better after exiting the UFC. He definitely does look like he's improved a lot, but
but again, it's like kind of like what I was talking about with what's his fuck, like with like Yazi or Ziya. It's like it's a bunch of fucking like Chinese jabronis, but whatever.
Yeah, I agree. Still plus 210 for Chris Padilla, minus 260 to Rong Zhu. We'll move on to the next fight. But I think, again, another really fun fight. Like this card is not the best names, but these fights all I think are going to be, for the most part, pretty entertaining fights. Even if these go to decisions, I think some of these fights are like very good matchups. So another one here, Yano Ashimo's the Red Fox taking on Trevor Peak. This one's going to be a good old-fashioned slobber knocker, and I am done trying to expect that Trevor Peak's going to get knocked out. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. If it happens, it's going to be like some standing TKO where he immediately starts to argue with Mike Beltran or whoever does it and, yells at him, gets all upset. But, like, either way, Yano has very good power. I do think that he is the more technical guy. You can say that for pretty much everybody that faces Trevor Peak. And so that, again, DDP 2024 MMA, does technique matter? It still does matter a little bit to me here. And I think that, like his last fight against Chris Duncan, which we'll talk to Chris Duncan whisperer in a moment here, actually impressed me quite a bit. He breaks his arm in the fight. He's dealing with a lot of adversity, does not back down. And I frankly find Chris Duncan much better than Trevor Peak in every sense of the word. I think that, goes to war with Trevor Peak. I think there's moments for both fighters, but I think and the Jewish power, I don't care if he's Jewish or not, comes through. wins a decision here, just because, again, I can't pick Trevor Peek. I'm going to keep fading him here. So plus 110 on Yanao. I did play it. He is in the Zhongli. Lucky Locks, tell me I'm crazy.
Yeah, I mean, neither of these guys are super. I think Ashmuz is the better technical fighter. Every Trevor Peak breakdown is kind of the same. Like no one's plucking some amazing nugget that illuminates some new perspective that no one's ever considered before. Like he's not good, but he's really fun and he hits really hard and we all root for him because he's awesome. But the not good part is a bit of a problem. And am I high on Ashmuz? No. Does he have a more functional MMA game than Trevor Peak? Yeah. He's from Israel, but he's Circassian descent, which is like a region in the Caucasus Mountains. He's a Muslim actually, and he trains with a bunch of those Russian guys at K Dojo Warrior Tribe camp in New Jersey when he's in the U.S., which is like known for having a bunch of the Russian guys. Like Shamid Khan Magomedov is there, Azamat Mirzakhanov trains there, Murat Keshtov is the founder and head coach there. So I assume he's getting some pretty good work in his camps, and he won his debut against Sam Patterson with a round 1 knockout. Great knockout. Lost his last fight to Chris Duncan, broke his wrist or his arm or something in the first round of that fight. And I keep seeing people saying like, oh, he's really low output because of that fight. It's like, well, he only threw one hand for like the last 2 rounds. So, and listen, Ashmuz is not like a great striker technically speaking, but I certainly don't think he's as rudimentary as Trevor Peak, and Peak has a lot of issues on defense. I think Ashmuz takes, less damage than Trevor Peak does. Both guys hit hard. Ashmuz for me is the more complete fighter, more well-rounded, and at a dog price, he's the side for me. I would probably make him around like, minus 135, minus 140 here. I bet him at plus 115. Yep. Trevor Peak just doesn't do anything well for me, which doesn't mean he can't win, but like I'm just trying to figure out what he does besides, hit hard and try his best. I think over 2.5 was probably worth a look. I think money's coming in there, so I probably won't bet it. But yeah, Ashmuz is the side for me here.
Yeah. All right. 2 cents. Are you with us on the man, the Muslim Jew, as Noah calls him?
Boys, it's a miracle. I think we're gonna complete the Holy Trinity for
the Peak.
Maybe not the first time on this card, but the first like kind of underdog or whatever. Dude, I just can't not see Yanal Ashmuz at some point in this fight. I just think it's gonna happen. At some point, he's gonna wing an overhand, and Trevor Peak's just gonna be standing there, and the lights are gonna fucking go out in Georgia. Like the dude, he's been a fun fighter. He's gotten his ass beat a couple times, but at some point, dude, it's his defense and the lack thereof is going to catch up to him. I saw somebody saying that he's been working with Ludwig. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad. Like, Dwayne Ludwig is a dude that's like, hey, throw this fucking 8-punch combo, mixing up targets. And like, how long has Trevor Peak had to adapt to that? I think if he's standing there trying to like, play that game with Ashmuz, like, yeah, he's low output, but dude, when he throws, it is with really fucking violent intentions, and he'll just wing him, dude. He'll just go like overhand left, overhand right, like step into him, stance switching. Like, I think at some point, Peak's gonna get slept by this dude. So yeah, give me Ashmuz. Love that he's in the Zhongli.
I would love to see it. Yeah, I mean, I was at a crossroad with the Zhongli where either I could make it a plus 850, plus 900, which just doesn't feel right, or we make it to plus 1200. So, got in, and I got the main event out of there actually because I've try to avoid putting main events into the Zhongli. It does not turn out well. So, all right, moving on to the next one, but plus 110. That's what I bet Yanal at. That is currently where he's at over at DraftKings, minus 130 to Trevor Peak, plus 120 on the under 2.5 there as well. I don't hate the KO shot either. I won't be able to bet that, but yeah, fair enough. All right, fourth fight. This one was added this week. We got Matt Schnell and Cody Durden. Last I heard, Cody Durden was minus like 330 or something like that. Good luck if that's the side you're going with in this one. For me, yes, Matt Schnell, definitely danger with regards to how much damage he has continued to take, how many times he's been finished. Some of these knockouts, he's been finished twice because his head's bounced off after he's been knocked out. Like, the dude has been knocked out a lot and then some. Sure, Cody Durden. Cody Durden looked really good until he didn't against Bruno Silva in that fight. I'm curious if the stitches are out of his face yet, or if he's been able to train, how much he's been able to train for this fight. He just has his wife in his corner. He just got a 4-fight deal. So there's, while that's great. He got a 4-fight deal. If he loses this one, oh, well, like, let me just get back against Victor Altamirano in December or something in Edmonton on a shitty card. Like, Durden's career doesn't change one way or another with this fight. And I'll just take Matt Schnell. Why not? He's got the full camp here. He doesn't have stitches still in his face from being knocked out like 2 months ago. And yeah, I'll take Matt Schnell to knock him out as well. Why not? But actually, I think he'll get the submission because Cody Durden, the grappling, I'm still not very sold on. So 2 cents.
Shout out to the Norwegian Pakistani piece of shit that tried to cyberbully me earlier. I think that we're going to have a little win-loss duality. So, yeah, shout out to Big Moise here. I think that Matt Schnell is going to be the one that's looking good in this fight, and then Cody Durden is going to bing, bang, boom, and he may be knocking this guy out. So I'm going to pick Cody Durden by knockout. Will not be parlaying it, but, yeah, give me Durden by KO here to get back. I really don't like that he's coming back early. He could get rocked by Matt Schnell, does hit. He's a little, I'm not going to say he's a glass cannon, but he does have a decent amount of pop on the feet. So it's like, yeah, you can't parlay Durden coming back after a knockout loss like that. But yeah, I'm going to pick him to win here. But stop it.
Yeah, fair enough. Lucky?
Yeah, I don't have a huge in-depth breakdown here just because the matchup is kind of new. I didn't look too hard into it. I don't think either of these guys are awesome. Schnell has good size for the weight class, but he's a little old for 125. I know Durden is also kind of getting up there. They're almost the same age, but just the durability concerns on Matt Schnell are a lot bigger than on Durden. And, I just don't have that same concern about Durden that I do with Schnell, although he was knocked out in his last fight. And both of these guys have lost twice in a row inside the distance. I thought Durden was looking really good in his last fight until, the finishing sequence. It's just hard to find a lot of guys that you would want to make, Matt Schnell a favorite against at the UFC level right now, just because, like 2 Cents said, what if he comes out and looks good and then all of a sudden he just gets bonked out of nowhere? That's just a super realistic concern in a lot of his matchups now. And, -3 whatever on Cody Durden, have fun with that. I'm not going to be anywhere near that. There would need to be a 1 at the start of the number for me to want to be involved on Durden here. But, I guess I'll pick him to win, but it's not really I don't know, a spot that I'm super passionate about.
Yep. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, again, another good fight, though. These guys should put on a good fight. I don't give a fuck about it. But these guys are going to put on a good fight for however long it lasts. So I feel like this card on Sunday, people are going to be like, wow, that card had so many bangers on it. I can't believe it. I really am excited to watch the actual fights. I don't really care about a lot of these fighters, but the actual fights are good. Another one, great example, I hope. But this is definitely one I could see, depending on how it goes, especially if Kyle Nelson starts to get his vertical wrestling game going, could be super boring, super boring. Or and it's Kyle Nelson, Steve Garcia at featherweight here, or they're going to come together and each one's going to knock the other one down before one of them gets a knockout at some point in this fight, because it's a Steve Garcia fight. So Steve Garcia is definitely going down at some point. It's just hopefully he gets up from it. The dude just doesn't have the best defense before getting that offense started. He's probably one of those guys who will say, I got to get punched before I really feel like I'm in a fight, which you don't really want to hear from your professional fighters, but that's what Steve Garcia is. And Kyle Nelson is the type of guy who, if he hits you right with that first or second punch could put you out. Also, like, he has very good power for this weight class. He also has like an underrated IQ, I feel like, with regards to when to make the fight kind of boring in a cage vertical wrestling clinch fight, and when to kind of, make it a little more exciting here. Steve Garcia, I do think, has, a lot of experience, has enough IQ here to avoid some of these pitfalls that guys like even Padilla fell into with Kyle Nelson. And I just think that Steve Garcia ends up hurting and putting away Kyle Nelson here. So Kyle Nelson on a very quiet 4-fight unbeaten streak here that no one wants to talk about. 4-fight win streak for Steve Garcia. So really important fight here, kind of quiet and important fight here at 145. I'm going to go with the favorite in Steve Garcia. I'm going to take him to win by knockout in round number 2. But I hope this is the exciting version of the fight I'm picturing in my head. Because if it's boring, it could go to decision, and I could definitely see Kyle Nelson just sapping a decision here. But I'm going to go with the more exciting and a likely version in my mind, which is Steve Garcia by knockout. Lucky.
Yeah, Nelson's on a heater right now, man. Kind of resurrected his UFC career, rattling off 3 wins in a row. And look, I don't know if I'm going to be saying this next time, but I'll say it this time, right here, right now. This guy's pretty good, to be fair. I didn't think I'd be on here saying that a few years ago, but, he's proven it. Garcia's stepping in on short notice for Calvin Kattar. Garcia's a guy that, I've been high on before. I came on here and pounded the table on him in his last fight, and I bet him there at a really good price, -138. And I think Nelson is a much better fighter than Choi. And the price isn't really a whole lot different from the closing line of that Choi fight. So, we just talked about Garcia, and I don't want to dredge up like too many of the same talking points that I just did like a couple weeks ago. But, like to summarize, I think the knock on the durability is a little bit overstated. And I think it's more of a defensive deficiency than a durability deficiency. And he's got massive power in his own right. He's on a 4-fight win streak, 5-2 overall in the UFC, 5 knockouts. We know what Steve Garcia does, right? Mm-hmm. And Nelson has been good lately. He's a guy that no one was high on just 2 years ago. Garcia is hittable, so is Nelson. Nelson gets hit a lot more, actually, just on the stats on a per minute basis. And if both guys are going to go out there and get hit, like who do you want? Nelson has been finished in 3 out of his 4 UFC losses, and I think Steve Garcia has a little more room for error, to be honest. I don't think Nelson has like one-shot power at this level. He has 2 round 1 knockouts. I'm going to acknowledge that. I thought the last one was a little bit soft, but, nevertheless, he got the stop. I kind of think that a Nelson win is like a flighty, rangy type of fight, and Garcia typically doesn't allow for those often, if ever. So I got to go Steve Garcia here, but, I feel like the good opportunity for me was the last one. I got in there. I probably just watch this one as a spectator, and I think it's going to be a fun one to watch in that capacity. So yeah, that's where I'm at with this one.
Yeah, no, it's a good fight. It is in the Zhongli. It's capping off the Zhongli. Now that I have subbed out a fighter from the main event, so yeah, we shall see. But good fight once again. Sneaky good matchups here throughout. On to the co-main event. Really good, very important flyweight fight here. Brother Jessica makes her return here on a 2-fight win streak. Looking good, looking revitalized here, saying, I am back at the 125 division. Why not? Came off of a split win against my girl, Marina Rodriguez. Natalia Silva coming back after, nearly a 7-month layoff. Looked pretty good against Araujo. Looked better and better as the fight went on. Very, very quick striker. Stays, on, pretty quick and on the outside for the most part. The grappling has gotten better as well. And yeah, this is a great fight. I'm really excited to see how improved Natalia Silva is coming into this one. I get that she's coming off of a tragedy with her sister and losing her sister. That can have one of two, results on a fighter. We've seen the Damon Jackson, Pat Sabatini come through at times, and then we've seen other results. So not really sure how that comes into effect here, but either way, she's such an accurate, precise striker, and just has gotten better with each of her fights in her UFC run as well. It's kind of funny that Teresa Bleda came the closest to beating Natalia Silva of any of these fighters. Jessica Andrade has just faced such a better level of competition. I think still has, a good amount of juice left in the tank here. I haven't gotten to the bet yet, but I am taking Jessica Andrade in this spot here. Veteran lesson Natalia Silva, who, I still think just has some holes in her overall MMA game that I think are going to be exposed by someone in Jessica Andrade, who's faced just such a high level of competition throughout her career at both 115 and 125. And again, I do not think she's done yet. And this line's crazy to me as well. I haven't bet it yet, but I'll let 2 cents talk me into it here. So I'll take Andrade, and I got Andrade to win by decision, but a KO or a submission would not surprise me either. So 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows what time it is with me in this fight. Like, Jessica is the homie. She's my favorite, female, WMMA fighter, UFC fighter, whatever. So it's super biased. But man, like at that number, yeah, I think you look at Vivian, or you look at Natalia Silva, and like her last win against Viviana, the decision, probably her best win, I guess. I don't know. Like, Viviana's kind of got a jobber record, and I don't know, man. I just think Jessica is way more dangerous than anyone she's faced, including Marina Rodriguez, who she lost to. Like, I know she was younger. She was like 18 or whatever. But she's been stopped before. She was even younger than that, I think. But it's just she's looked really good, and she is improving. And Jessica is not the most durable, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Natalia knocked her out. Jessica does lunge forward on a lot of her strikes and whatever her combos, and Natalia Silva is a good, accurate counter striker off the back foot, so I'm a little worried about that. But there's no way I'm not going to bet Jessica at over 2-1, so I bet her plus 225. But yeah, man, I think you look at some of these fights, and Natalia Silva she does a lot of running around and a lot of skating around the edge of the octagon, dude, and like sometimes she gets stuck against there. She did against Jasmine. So if that happens against Andrade, she's going to be a lot of fucking trouble. Jessica just hits way harder and is just a way better fighter than anyone she's ever fucking faced. So yeah, give me the dog here.
Yeah, Marina versus Silva would be a great fight regardless. Lucky, what's your thoughts on this one?
I'm not super high on the current version of Andrade, and I know she won twice in a row now. I'm probably still going to short the stock here. Natalia Silva is 6 years younger. She's bigger on the measurables. She's a sharp striker, and she's a southpaw. And that's not a look that Andrade has gotten super often. And Andrade does have a losing record against southpaws over the past, 4+ years. I really couldn't be bothered to look back farther than that.
Sure.
Andrade did win 2 in a row. She's still got a losing record over the last 5, though, and was finished in every single one of the 3 losses. 8 out of the 10 UFC losses come inside the distance. I mean, you guys covered a lot of the angles. I mean, I definitely understand, liking Jessica Andrade at this number. And, I'm inclined to agree that this probably is one of the toughest matchups, if not the toughest that Silva has had. But I still got to lean to Silva here. I'm not, jamming 3 units on -300, but I do think we see a little bit of a changing of the guard in this fight, and Natalia Silva gets it done. So that's my feeling here.
Wouldn't surprise me at all. Plus 250 to Brother Jessica. -310 to Natalia Silva. The under 2.5 at plus 135. Another under that I am going to consider there because I feel both fighters have finishing upside in this fight pretty decent. So plus 125 on that isn't bad at all.
Definitely. So. I think, honestly, one of them is going to get knocked out. Like, Jessica's going to go out on her shield, or she's going to put Natalia out on hers, honestly. Like, that's kind of how she fights against these kind of like matchups here. Like, Jessica's definitely like a bully kind of fighter and wants to prove that she's the big bad bitch, and she is in a lot of these, man. So I hope it comes
8 of 10 fights that Brother Jessica's lost, as she's found the exit. So
yeah, definitely. So
plus
yeah,
125, I will be thinking about that one.
Hell yeah.
All right. moving on to the main event, and it is a very good main event, in my opinion. Gilbert Burns taking on Sean Brady here at 170. Gilbert Burns coming off the 2 straight losses to Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della. Yes, Jack Della, that was a close fight in that one. Last 2 for Sean Brady, getting knocked out standing by Bilal Muhammad. Yikes. And then coming back and absolutely schooling Kelvin Gastelum. That was a fantastic performance. 7 minutes of top control, 3 or 4 takedowns, like some effortless takedowns in that fight. I think Sean Brady's very, very good. Honestly, like his stand-up continues to be steady. He mixes in leg kicks very well. Both these guys mix in leg kicks. I think this is going to ultimately be a very close fight over the 5 rounds. I think both these guys are going to have moments. I don't see either guy putting the other guy in too dangerous of a situation to get the finish. I think this goes 5 rounds personally. I just think these guys match up pretty well. I just like Sean Brady a little bit more just due to the youth. I think he's still improving a little bit overall. And I just think that the good days of Gilbert Burns, like the best days, are long behind us here. And I just think when the going gets tough, I'm a little bit concerned with how maybe this is the Herbert Burns rub-off effect here, but I'm just a little bit concerned with how Burns fights through the adversity to the 5 rounds. I think Sean Brady is the better fighter at this point in their careers. And I think that this is a pretty accurate line, maybe a little bit too heavy to Sean Brady, but minus 180 I think is about right here. And I think Sean Brady takes the decision 3-2 over Gilbert, 4-1 maybe. But yeah, I like Sean in this fight and just switched him out of the Zhongli for the Red Fox. So we'll see if that's a mistake. But 2 cents. What's your thoughts on the main event?
I don't
Actually, Lucky, my bad.
That's
Sorry.
all good.
Lucky.
Oh, all right. Burns, yeah, man, on a 2-fight slide, 38 years old, was knocked out 5-6 months ago. I mean, I don't really think this is a horrible matchup for him. Both guys, at their core are grapplers. Brady is not like an awesome striker. He's making improvements. And I mean, Burns is not exactly Alex Pereira, but he's got some power and he can hang. They're similarly sized. The big things for me are going to be the youth advantage on the side of Brady, the difference in momentum and kind of the trajectories between the two. Brady is coming off a good Kimura win over Gastelum, and I think that maybe Brady isn't like technically more skilled anywhere by like a wide margin, but the youth, the strength, the confidence, that can go a long way in MMA, especially where it's a close fight. Burns has climbed the mountain, already. He got to that title shot. He fell short. Now, Chimaev got by him. Bilal got by him. JDM got by him. We've seen him kind of starting to lose to the next wave of guys. And listen, there's no shame in those losses. Don't get me wrong. But, the only wins that he's had in the past 2 years are Neil Magny and Jorge Masvidal. And where I feel like most things are kind of equal here, most of the advantages that I can discern in this fight are on the side of Brady. So I do think he's the deserved favorite, and I think he's going to win the fight.
Yeah, and I even like if we're comparing their similar opponent recently of Bilal, Brady looked much better against Bilal than Gilbert did. 2 cents.
Noah's had a bad night and he's taking Burns because he hates the fucking Eagles, man. But I don't know. Yeah, I got Brady here. He's parlayed up for me, but I mean, Lucky kind of hit the nail on the head with the youth advantage and the trajectory and all that. And yeah, not everyone, but a lot of people will look at that Bilal Muhammad loss. And, in fairness, I did myself too, and look at it and be like, that's an embarrassing loss, whatever. But, now that Bilal's become champion, it hasn't aged so bad. But yeah, Burns, to me, like, he's a good grappler, he's a good striker, but he's now 38, and I just think, yeah, he's like a couple of fighters that we talked about this. on this card, Aaron, where it's like he does look for the back door sometimes when the going gets tough. And I think Brady could be looking to make a point here, and I think he does. So, yeah, I got the Philly boys parlayed up, but I think he actually comes through, man. I think Brady, he just looks so good against Kelvin, and it's like I don't feel like Gilbert is that much more dangerous than Kelvin. I think they're about on the same level, kind of, but yeah, give me Brady here.
Yeah, no, fair, completely fair. Yeah, no, I do like Brady. I think that he's kind of a little bit overhated, but whatever.
For sure.
Yeah, minus 180 here. Minus 185. Pretty accurate, maybe a little bit too steep towards him, but either way, yeah, that is going to do it for the breakdown. Last but not least, I'll go through the Zhongli and then any bets that these two have, and we will call it a night. But the Zhongli starts with the first fight of the night, so we will know right away if, for some reason, Ramaskus loses to Nathan Fletcher. Go ahead and restart this Zhongli and add Sean Brady to the end of it. But the original Zhongli would be Ramaskus, Petroski, Santos, Garcia, Ashimov, Garcia, and Ashimov, Santos, Garcia. So let me just go through that again. Sorry, I was out of order, but Ramaskus, Petroski, Ashimov, Garcia, and Santos. So for a plus 1,200 Zhongli parlay currently, if you want to lock that in. Lucky, thank you as always for the Contender Series last night, and of course for joining me tonight. So any bets you have for the card coming up this weekend?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. As always, fun to chop it up with you guys. 2 cents, always fun talking with you as well. So on the UFC card, I do have Yanel Ashmo's plus 115, and I have a couple of bets for the Octagon 60 card. A lot of these lines have moved, unfortunately. I have in the main event Lam Ali Eskiev. I bet him at plus 120 and plus 115. I think a lot of places he's like a favorite now. I do have Amir Chan Al as well at minus 125 and Zoran Salaya at minus 105. So I have those 3 bets for Octagon and then Ashmo's on the UFC card. That's all I have so far.
Thank you. All right, and 2 cents. Anything you'd like to point out? Thank you as always for making the time.
Yeah, dude. Likewise, man. Thank you for having me as always. Lucky. Likewise to you as well, duder. Always a good time. Shout out to everyone in the chat, man. Y'all were awesome tonight. Smash the like button for Aaron if you have not already. So the bets that I have on this fight so far are the first bet I made was obviously Andrade at plus 225. I did bet Chris Padilla at plus 210. Just took a little flyer on him. The parlay I made yesterday on the Locker Room Talk podcast with those boys was we all agreed on Sean Brady and Petroski. We did the Philly boys parlay, and then I added Gabriel Santos for myself. Yeah, that is the only action I have, and then I tail the Zhongli as always. So best of luck to everyone, and yeah, dude, thanks for having me. Look forward to the next one.
Yep. That's going to do it for the show this week. We will be back next week. I don't believe next week is the Noche. So 2 weeks for Noche, big show for Noche. So you're definitely going to want to be here for that. But we'll be here next week with the UFC breakdown for whatever show that is. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the panel. Peace out, everybody. Did you have something to say, Lucky, before I took off?
Is it? I think it is next week, isn't it?
Is Noche next week? Okay, great.
I think so.
So we'll be here for Noche.
Yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, no, it's all good. We'll be here for Noche next week. So, all the weeks blur together here. But Noche next week, we have a very special panel as Norton MMA makes his return to the channel, as well as Gordon Gambles. So we got 5 people on the panel next week, all very, very sharp. Well, 4 of them sharp, and I'm there. So thank you, everybody. Good luck this weekend. Peace out. And thank you, Lucky, for knowing when the supposed biggest pay-per-view of the year is.